Let's find out. It's always a good sign, isn't it? It looks like we're back.
Which is just loading. Like things are happening because we're live
Are you here, Michael? You sound very quiet.
here. Here. And I'm here. Sweet. So just know to speak up a little bit then.
Okay, yep, because
Cool.
yeah, you're about
So
like half the volume of me. So I don't know if that's just because I'm very loud. Maybe I can
possibly, I don't know what else I can do. I don't want to. Oh wait. Is
put
this?
put the
Oh, that's
microphone
slightly better.
directly in you, like just.
Yeah, eat it. Yeah. Is that slightly better now?
Yeah, I mean it sounds okay. Well, we do, but I'll step back so people don't get blown up by me.
The only other thing I was going to do is put up the gains, but if I do that, you'll hear literally everything that happens in my house.
Mad gains, yo.
Yes. So now that we're back, we're talking about two films this week. We're talking about Ringu and Ring.
Yes, or as they're known, Ring and the Ring.
Ring and the Ring. Yes.
Yes, because that's how you make sure a film is a remake slash like remaster. You put the in it somewhere.
Yeah. Like how they did with Old Boy. It was the Old Boy, right?
Yeah, they called it the old boy.
The Old
No, they
Boy.
didn't.
No.
Yeah.
How did you find these films? Did you enjoy
Well,
them? Did you?
I have seen them separately beforehand, right? I saw The Ring when it was like all the big fucking rage back in the late 90s. And I was just like pure, okay. That was a thoroughly mediocre attempt at making a film, but I'll accept it because the plot was kind of cool. And
Yeah.
then I saw the remake several years later when people were moaning the shit out of it. They were like, "Oh my god, how dare you remake a masterpiece into something?" And I went and saw it and went, "Well, that was 1,000 times better." Like, but
Okay, so you thought this is one instance where the remake is definitely better.
yeah, because like they both kind of follow the same, mildly the same plot, right?
Mhm.
So if anyone is not familiar with the Ring series, this is what it's about. Uh, there be a spooky girl who lives inside videotapes.
Mhm.
If you watch the videotape, you will get a phone call that tells you you're about to die in 7 days, like 1 week from whenever you've watched the film. And the plot of the movie is people who have an investigator journalist, I guess,
Yeah,
watches the
journalist. Yeah, yeah.
yeah watches the film and then wants to uncover the mystery and figure out how she can stop herself and other people who have watched it from dying.
Yeah.
And
And it's brought about because someone close to her gets just like suddenly dies,
mhm,
and then she starts looking into it, and then she herself gets hit with a curse. And then later on, her little boy and her ex partner, all people she loves, so she's like, oh no. And then we find out more about how this spooky girl got trapped inside a videotape. Kind of.
kind of like
We don't
this is
really find out how she got trapped, but that's the
so
good bit of the mystery to it.
yeah, so in both versions of the film, they kind of the first 30 to 40 minutes of it, like they match up almost exactly.
Hmm.
Like there is just the exact same chain of events, but once it gets to that point and they start actually investigating what's going on, the
Hmm.
two movies like diverge completely.
Yep.
One starts going towards a more supernatural side
Hmm.
of things where it's all about like psychics and
Psychic powers and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, and all this kind of weird stuff. And then the other side is just that like the child exists as its own kind of like paranormal entity, whereas
Yeah.
that's it. Everyone else is just stuck in the middle of her like horrible world, and no one really knows where she's come from or how she's gained her powers, etc.
Yeah. And it's the I don't know, the original sort of because of the whole psychic powers things, it was what this was 98, was it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
98. So we're still quite a bit after, but we're closer to, this used to be an actual thing. People used to try and obviously try and get people to develop psychic powers. It was a whole thing.
Well, in
Um,
Japan was it?
I don't think it was it not like Russia tried doing shit like this?
Oh, you talking about like kind of Cold War style where they were like
Yeah,
trying to investigate like ESP and all that kind
yeah,
of
that
thing.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And it's like it's stuff we've heard and seen before. So it's while supernatural, you're like, yeah, they might be crazy enough to try stuff like this.
Mhm.
But then the daughter getting her powers as well. We're going massively ahead in the film.
No, I mean, like, I don't think,
But
in my opinion, we're not really here to discuss like the plot of the film. We're more
yeah,
here to
like
kind
the
of discuss what made one version better than another, or what
yeah,
makes one worse than the other. Because let's face it, these films are very dry on plot, right?
yes, absolutely.
Like
They're
very
yeah,
like. And most of it is not like, as you said before, like you don't find them necessarily scary, but that's because they're not like, they don't focus on the horror. They focus more on investigation. They're detective
yeah,
movies more than
yeah,
anything
and it's
else.
the whole mystery and not knowing things is what sort of makes it unsettling.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's, I think that's why a lot of people didn't quite understand the horror of it.
Hmm.
Is because it's not necessarily, I mean, it's about like a spooky little girl with psychic powers who's gonna eat your soul, but she's not in the fucking film ever. Like she's in it for one scene, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
Like,
much. Well, she's in the remake a lot more because there's the flash, like the other old VHS, like of her being in
yes.
the facility,
So
and then in the original, she's only in it for one bit.
yeah, that's another thing where it diverges because I think I don't quote me on this, but I think by the time The Ring came out, there had already been Ring 2 and Ring Zero made in Japan.
Right.
I think they were like dumped out one after the other, like
Okay.
straight to
Yeah.
VHS kind of things. And
Yeah.
in those films, they explain the backstory
Right.
of Sadako. Yeah.
Sadako. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And they have those scenes where it's like you see her in the, like, I don't know what we're going to call it, like experimentation room sort of thing, where they're trying to get to the
Yeah.
bottom of her powers and stuff. So that those things do happen in the Japanese version, just not in the first film.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a thing I think a lot of American films try and do is like if they've seen more, they'll be like, oh, we'll just cram it into the first film and
Hmm.
not have a franchise in mind. But I mean,
Well,
it works. Like,
see, in my opinion, I think it kind of works almost a bit better
mhm,
because the storytelling element of the original Japanese one is that we have a secondary psychic character who is like a protagonist. So like we obviously have, like in the American one, you've got Rachel and Noah, who are like the husband and wife who have a child, and they're just kind of investigating this thing because their child sees the tape and they want to try and fix it,
mhm.
right? But in the Japanese one, it's like the husband is very strange, like, but he claims to have these psychic powers and acts
Yeah.
all like spooky and like, oh, woe is me, don't come near me, I'm I'm all
I
knowledgeable.
sent something in your house. Oh, can you feel what's happening in the well? And it's like, well,
Yeah. And like he also can see ghosts. Is that what we established? Because the girl who dies at the beginning of the film, he sees her legs while he's waiting on a park bench at one point. It's almost
right,
as if he's communicating with ghosts.
right, okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah. So also hyena, no Chris this week. He is in the voice of God section somewhere
yes,
around us.
Chris is omnipresent.
Yes, he's here to fix our technical issues when they
I'm
appear.
here when I need to be.
But so yeah, he becomes a plot device, which I
Hmm.
find really lazy. Whereby if we want to find out anything that happened in the past or anything leading up to these events, all he does is go, "I'm going to touch you now,"
Yeah,
and it's like, ah, mystery revealed.
yeah. It's no, nobody finds any notes or anything like that. It's just he's like, let me explain the
Yeah,
situation.
and also like the investigation gets kind of like it's immediate in the Japanese one. It's like
Mhm.
he watches the tape once and goes, "Hmm, I think I know where we're going. Get on this ship and let's go."
Yeah,
Like there's like, whoa, wait, what? Okay, we're on our way since Mr. Plot Device has shown us exactly where we're going.
yeah,
But the American one spends more time with the character of Rachel, and she actually
mhm.
does this thing that might be a mystery to kids of today. There's this job that used to exist called journalist, where you investigated news stories
Oh my
and
God.
came to conclusions of your own.
Yeah. God, you mean BuzzFeed didn't do everything?
Well, to be fair, they maybe found out which. No, I'm not even going to say, like, because BuzzFeed articles are the bottom of the bottom.
No, they're
Like, like which top 10 fruits will make your semen taste amazing? Who find out? Like,
Jesus.
and it's
Um,
like, who cares? Like,
she
but
also had some incredible cojones on her when I don't know if it's her boss or if it's someone just walks up and says you're fired, and she's like, no, I'm not. And she's like, no, you're actually fired though. And she's like, no, it's fine. I'm
no,
working on a
it's fine.
thing.
See, that's a massive difference between the two main characters as well. Is like the Naomi Watts plays like Rachel as this badass motherfucker who's
Mhm.
like pretty much you can see that she puts her career first because she kind of neglects her child to an extent.
Yeah.
And that's kind of her character arc is learning to understand that she's a bad mother through the eyes of people who are worse parents
Yep.
and coming back to the idea that maybe I should just spend time with my child instead
Yeah.
of trying to
And
fix
then
everything.
it brings you to the children who are like you've got Aiden who is independent out of requirement
Hmm.
versus Yoichi who is independent because of
He's just
he
that
just
way.
is.
He
Yeah,
just is.
he'll
Like,
just one day just when they're going to the funeral, he's just like, oh, by the way, your clothes are on the bed,
yeah, because
and
you
I
don't,
just like who has their child lay out their clothes?
yeah, because you don't get the idea that she is a distant mother. Like, obviously, the father's not there, right? And she'll be at work quite a lot,
Hmm.
but that's not really established out of like just you imagining it. Because they send the kid off to her grandparents in the Japanese version, and like
Yeah,
he's always well taken care of. His grandparents are very, his granddad is a very sociable man who is happy-go-lucky. So where does this kid get this weird, like stoic
sense of
personality from?
yeah. It's a strange one, and you think it's possibly he's just had independence forced upon him because his mum maybe has to go out and work a lot to make the money, so she's like, right, just take yourself to school. I don't know,
I don't know. It felt like a
maybe.
trope. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, more than anything. Whereas for some reason the American version actually thinks about how this character should be established and
yeah,
shows us that like the parent is neglectful
yeah.
and the other parent is a complete bum. Well, I
But
mean,
the,
just
the American also tells us like explicitly that Noah is his dad. The Japanese one
yeah.
never explicitly says that the ex-husband is the kid's dad, right?
Uh, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't, but I think it's more implied just
Oh
through like
yeah, yeah,
social standing of like Japan,
yeah.
etc. Yeah, I think it would be very frowned upon if it wasn't. But yeah, again, when you say like even it's not even that hard told. It's not like they're like pure like, oh hey, blah blah blah. Or it's like it's in a passive conversation where it only comes up because like at that point after seeing these characters for so long, she's like, look, it's our son that's in danger
Mhm.
when she's speaking to him on the phone, and so it comes out naturally in that
Yeah,
sort of way. It's not like, greetings, ex-husband of mine who I have a child with.
yeah.
How are
It's
you
not
today?
blatantly, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So like
go
because
on.
also like that character himself, like because he's introduced in this way where we don't really know anything about him other than he has a job that can help her out,
Yeah,
and that he's a bit of a flirt with like younger women, and that's about it. So it
yeah,
becomes kind of a surprise more than anything when we realize that he was the father of that child.
yeah.
Yeah.
Say surprise, even though it's film world. It's in film world, so
Yes.
it's there's a lady character and a male character. Well, that's obviously the dad, but you're not supposed to put those things together. But it's film world.
Yeah, I suppose.
And
Uh,
how do you feel about the tapes and the differences? And obviously, the tapes themselves and what
right,
they
okay.
show are very different.
Yeah.
Which one do you feel creeped you out more?
Right. So it's quite a difficult one to put. Uh, like if I was to say which one creeped me out more, probably the Japanese one, because it's more subtle in whatever it's trying to show.
Okay.
Like there's just people, badly shot footage, and some odd stuff. But the thing I think bothers me the most about the Japanese one
Hmm.
is that it has like lots of words in it. You know,
Yeah.
if I could read Japanese, that would seem really stupid to me. Like if the English tape said like Samara or something across it, and you'd be
Yeah.
like,
Or it had like horse.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
like right here, or go to island. Island is here. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Whereas, because the American one has some bits in there that are a bit more like horror, if you know what I mean. It's like you're, oh my god, the thing's pulling out of its mouth and there's like
Yeah.
destruction and flies. But actually, I'm not even too sure now. I think I might actually prefer the American tape.
You know what I think sold it for me on the tapes was the sound.
Ah,
The American one seemed to have a lot more sound, and it was one of those things that really gets me is distorted strings. As soon as
mm,
you hear distorted strings, to me that is just instant creep factor, and it just
yeah. I'd say, I'll see. Speaking of sound, um, like the actual soundtracks in each section as well, kind of show the different and approaches. Because the American one has a more subtle soundtrack.
yeah,
Yeah, whereas the Japanese one's kind of like pure. Oh, something bad's about to happen. Dun 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 dun. Like
yeah,
it's like okay, I get it was the 90s, but still, that's pretty shit.
yeah,
But like, definitely the tapes are both like kind of horrific in their own sort of way. If like you found either one of those in your house and you put press play, you'd be like, hmm, I don't think I'm sleeping tonight.
no, no, I don't think I'm sleeping ever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think the way they're approached is kind of different in each film as well. Like in the American one, you can tell that Rachel is very hesitant to even like show it to anyone,
yeah,
whereas and like she only does it kind of out of necessity.
yeah,
And then in the Japanese one, she's kind of just like they're watching it on monitors like every 5 seconds. If you're like, let me look at that again. Like I want to
yeah.
just yeah, that. let's
Freeze
let's get
frame on that.
everyone in.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like there's very different approaches to filmmaking here, and that's
yeah,
what I kind of really want to talk about is the like the cinematography, especially. Like if you look at the Japanese one now, you're like, oh, this looks like a made for TV film almost. Like
yeah, yeah. It seems a lot grainier and a lot.
it's just the lighting in particular. Like
Yeah,
it's very much like always a daytime set with like loads of light coming in and
yeah,
like it's all very saturated and colorful and just odd camera angles. It's very TV looking.
right. Yeah, I suppose the American one's a lot. I noticed like a lot of grays. There were a lot of grays and there
Yes.
were a lot of greens.
Yeah, it's kind
Sort
of
of
almost
felt
the what's he called again? Fincher sort of look.
right.
You know, where it's everything's kind of got that little bit of silvery dusk feel to it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that like also the differences in how like each scene is shot because
Mm,
as I say the Japanese one is very like make sure your characters are in frame, make sure everyone's in here whereas the American one kind of takes more time in the like the artistry of it. There's
right.
lots of like nice kind of close-up shots and like even just like what do you call those where it's like you're just kind of setting a tone sort of thing. There's lots of kind of like establishing shots
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like of
established,
like
yeah.
the beautiful vistas where like there's that one little tree on the horizon, like the
Yep.
lighthouse and all that kind of thing. There's more just a sense of world building.
Yeah, yeah. There seemed to be a lot more motion, a lot more uh kinetics in the American one.
Mhm.
Everyone seemed to be moving a lot,
Yeah.
camera and actors.
Yeah, because I think it was I don't necessarily know who the director of photography was, but it was Gore Verbinski who did the
Hmm.
American one, and
Yeah,
like I only really know him from Pirates of the Caribbean and Rango, two films that I really enjoy,
right.
but they're nothing like this.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not seen well, I've seen a couple of the Pirates films, but it's been a long time and I didn't know he was behind them
All right.
because
Have you,
again, it's been that long.
wait, have you never seen Rango?
No,
No.
I've never
What?
seen Rango. I know. I was one of those that was on my list for a while and then it just went right past me.
Oh my God.
I
Like
know. I'm a
Rango
disappointment.
is a fucking powerhouse. I think it's God damn it, what's his name again? Uh Chris, where are you when I need you? The guy who did Blade Runner 2049 cinematography, he did it for Rango as well. Deacons. Thank you. the
What
the
was
voice
that?
the voice of God came in to tell
Who
me it
was
was
that?
Roger Deakins. Roger Deakins
Roger
is
Deakins.
That's what I'm
Right.
here
fuck.
for. The
He's
backstage
fucking.
Googler.
I mean, he's amazing. So like, I'm going off topic, but like, go see
Yeah.
Rango. Like, fuck,
Okay.
man, that film's
I'll
amazing.
I'll do that. I'll do that one.
like, so yeah, this is a very offbeat thing for Gore Verbinski to do,
Mm,
and I'm kind of here for it. Like, I wish he'd done more of this in his career,
yeah.
and I don't know why he hasn't.
Okay.
Maybe money.
Well, yeah. I mean, that might. Um, One of the things I found strange was obviously the. I don't know. It goes back to plot. Was just how the island that Samara and Samara, not Samara, and
So yes,
Sadako
no,
came from.
it's Samara, isn't it?
Samara.
It's a fucking weird name. Can we
It
establish
is.
that?
It's
Like,
a quite a weird name.
call her like Sarah or something,
Sarah.
right?
No, because it
Because
needs to be the 6 letters and 3 syllables. So,
maybe that's a thing. I didn't know if that was established
I
somewhere in the
I don't
lore,
know.
but
Who knows? Um, but the island that they came from or lived at is miles from the well that they got chucked in, and I don't know if that's meant to be a thing
um,
because they obviously have to travel ages. It seems like she can get to this cabin
well,
by car, but she has to get a boat to go to the island. Like,
right. So, in which version are we going to talk about it in? Like,
um, let's go with the original.
right. So, in the original, I find it kind of confusing. Yeah,
Hmm.
because the actual plot element in the original is that it's really hard to understand. It kind of seems like she's just not liked by the community because she's psychic and she's not in touch with how to control her powers, right?
Yeah, she killed a guy.
She killed a guy because she's a child and she feels like,
Yeah,
ah,
she
you're
didn't
being
know.
mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This person's being angry at my mum, so I'm gonna
But
stop him.
that's the only example we get. And
Mm.
then like all we find out is that she was killed by her father and pushed down a well.
Yep.
And we're like, why?
Yeah, and why
Why
is the
did
well so far away?
yeah, and like how did all this come to play out? Like I would like to know, but it's
Yeah,
not there.
there's a lot left to mystery for a lot of the Japanese one. It's like there's a lot that I say left to mystery, left unexplained.
Yes, but
What?
that's what I'm getting at. Is like unexplained is okay, but they're literally just filling in blanks with
Yeah,
like more questions, and it's not necessarily giving me a mystery to try and unsolve because there's no
yeah,
other clues.
yeah,
Yeah, whereas in the American one, like we see that like they lived on a tiny island and
mhm.
everyone knew everyone, okay? And as the doctor kind of explained, it was like what did she say? If someone
When
catches a
the
cold,
it's the
it's our
island's
cold.
cold. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that basically means that if he killed her on that island, someone would have found out about it, right?
yeah,
That's what I kind of gathered as the
yeah.
idea
That
that
makes sense, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I get that now.
So
So take her
then
away from the island.
to take it away from the island and put her somewhere else that no one will ever track. But
Hopefully, unless
yeah,
some journalist goes digging.
yeah, and but that's the thing is there's lots to dig in the
Yeah,
American one because they don't just find out about, oh, look, there's the spooky girl and there's a spooky house. They go, okay, who's this woman we see in the videotape? Oh, it's her. Okay, where does she come from? Oh, there's this lighthouse place. Right, we've got this. Now, there's something about dead horses on this island. Why are the horses dead? Let's go find out about the horses. And then they find out more, and they find the barn, and then they find the dad, and then they find all the information because the dad stole it all. And it's like, yes, you're piecing something together. That's how you make a plot.
yeah. I find it quite weird with the whole the the dad at the end in the American one.
Hmm.
So she obviously Rachel breaks into the house, watches the videotape, and Brian Cox is just waiting for her to finish the videotape. He's
Yeah,
not like, no, no, you can go on, watch it, and then he hits her over the head, even like just briefly, doesn't knock her out, doesn't kill her, and then he just goes upstairs and chucks himself in an
I
electric
think
bath.
I think that's the thing. I think he's not necessarily because he's not necessarily an antagonist. He's not a bad guy, right?
Yeah,
He was just lumbered with a child that was like very evil in the
yeah, like
American
a
one,
plague.
like
Yeah, yeah,
right? Because it's like it's almost like it was very well established in the American one that this child is very bad, but in the end, he's not the one that tries to kill her.
no,
It's kind of like the mother realizes that she's inherently awful and all she ever wanted was to have a nice child and realizes that this is the worst thing. So we're kind of made to believe that he's the bad guy, but all he really does is get angry that she's fucking broken into his house and tried to dig up the idea of his dead child and all the horrors that came with it.
Yeah.
So he is angry, but he's not like there to kill her. He's there to kill himself because he doesn't want the fucking demon child coming back to his life.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So I mean, there's this stuff there that we get to see kind of layers of and pulled apart. Whereas there's a character in the Japanese one that kind of fulfills his role, but I got really confused because he's not the dad,
No.
but he
He
is someone who
he
was.
was present somehow. I don't know if he was present when the mum was showing her psychic powers, or
Mhm.
I think he was present at her presentation of psychic
Yes,
powers.
we see him there, but is it
But
ever? Was
that's
there ever
all
anything
we. I
else?
don't
Like,
think we got anything else.
so he's just like some dude, and we barely even see anything about the actual family other than mother was
No.
psychic, and
They do
it
go to the. They do end up going to the house. Do they go to? They go to the
they go to the house,
house.
yeah, because that's
Yeah,
where
yeah.
they
They
meet that
because
guy,
they
and
see.
that's why I got confused as to was he the father? No, but he just
Yeah,
lives in this house that's now kind of a hostel rental place or something.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's never properly established. Again, it's unexplained, but
yeah.
not not in a
So
good way.
yeah, that's the thing. So like that character almost seems kind of pointless in a way because he's just some innocent bystander who happened to see all this stuff, whereas the actual father, like who does the dirty deed, is never even like seen or mentioned in any other way, shape, or form throughout the entire film. So it's not a
Yeah.
shocking twist or interesting twist that he was killed by the father, other than like, oh my god, like what do they call that? It's not well, patricide's the opposite. What's the what do you call it when you kill your own child?
Um,
Infanticide or something like that? I don't know.
it's probably
Being
infancy.
an
Yeah.
asshole.
Yeah,
Well,
that
there's that. Yeah.
yeah, there is. But
Yeah.
so, but again, like there's all these tertiary characters that don't help in the Japanese one. They're just kind of there to like so that the psychic
I-
guy could touch him and find out information.
Yeah. A lot of them tend to just like point at places, and he's like, "I'll do that. I'll
There's
go
literally a
there."
guy that does point at places in the
Yeah.
videotape. He's just like got a tail in his head and he's like that way.
Yeah.
And then he turns up at the end, he's like, over there.
Yeah.
You're like,
It's who is
thank
this
you.
guy? Who is
Thank
he?
you. He's
Who
the
let him out?
director.
Ah, cool.
It's just the director going plots this way, by the way. Gotta
Uh,
go to the this island
the
if you
plot
want
arrow.
to
The
go.
plot
Go.
arrow.
Yep. Yeah.
Um. So there's, I think one of the only other things I'd like to, or there's a couple points I'd like to nitpick at with both the films near
Cool.
the end.
Pick
Um,
away.
but the other thing I'd like to discuss is the creepy girl from both films. Um, I think I prefer Sadako
Right.
because we see less. There's less mystery, and there's it's not like the whole, yeah, we know she was thrown down a well, so she's going to be covered in water. But I
Yeah.
like the whole, we never see her face. All we
Mhm.
see is like the eye.
Yes.
And even then, it's a very, like, all you
Like,
see is mostly white.
yeah.
And
Like
that's, yeah.
they did the horror part really well with that scene because there's one key thing that I noticed on the rewatch that I never really noticed before. What makes her movement and her thing creepy is they've obviously filmed her scenes backwards.
Yeah, and played it forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because like
noticed that.
it's like her hair motion kind of moves into herself instead of away from herself when she's moving, and like her shoulders kind of go down instead of up when she's
Yeah,
walking. And it's all this kind of like subtle stuff that you're just kind of like, oh, something feels off here. It's like,
yeah.
but
And I think the ones for Samara are either like it's her just walking weird, but there's also lots of jump cuts as well, so it feels very cut together. It feels very
yeah,
supernaturally and jerky, but
I think
it's
it's
not as
they used their visual effects budget. That's what they
yeah,
did. They were
yeah,
like, oh, how can we get her to like snap towards people in a weird way? Let's, yeah, but
yeah,
I get it. Both of them are only on screen for a very short amount of time, which kind of you can forgive
yeah,
any kind of.
definitely.
But obviously, if they're your keystone horror element, they better be fucking scary, right? We've waited for
Yes.
this the entire film.
Yeah.
I guess the main problem we're going to have as people watching it in 2020 is that that trope has been done to fucking death, right?
Yeah.
So
The creepy girl or the coming out the TV?
creepy girl with the long hair, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just not scary anymore. Like all I
No.
see is an actual little actress trying to be spooky.
There's just something about this. There's just something about a young girl being evil is just
Yeah.
horror worthy. Like we've seen it in so many other films. Like Carrie's not necessarily young, but she's young enough, and then you've got the girls from The Shining, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. Like
Like
it
it's
works.
yeah, it does work, but we've kind of like obviously in
Does it work?
'98 it wasn't its saturation point,
No.
but now it is. Now it fucking is, and
Oh yeah.
I do
Yeah.
not need any more. But that's a shame for this film because obviously it kind of catapulted that image into the pop culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Uh, oh, I was
Go
gonna
on.
say like the other bit that ruined the horror for me in the Japanese one was the Sam Raimi style, and then
Yeah.
the negative flash image. Oh my
On the
god, they're dead.
in what the Japanese one did you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When they do
Yeah.
the thing when it's like they get scared and then it's like they freeze frame on them and it goes dun like black
Yeah.
and white and it's like oh fuck. Who in the
Yeah.
editing suite thought that was
That's
spooky?
good.
Like,
That's sell it.
yeah,
Um.
print it.
I think the thing that took away from the horror is now obviously we're talking supernatural forces here, so there's
Mhm.
lots to just wipe away. It's like how most stuff in Harry Potter is because magic.
Yep.
Um, is the fact that the young girls that get killed at the very start of the film, they're killed near the TV, but they're found in a cupboard,
Yes. Yeah.
like crouched up, curled up in the cupboard in a fetal position. So maybe they're just put there by some magic. Maybe the little girls just picked them up and went, "I'm just going to put them here, and that'll be a
Yes.
funny prank."
She's like, oh no, oh
Oh,
shit, hide the body
I've
quick.
made a
Like,
mess.
I'll just put it over here because like also happens in the American one
Yeah.
where the boyfriend is found like just in a chair despite him being spooked to death on the floor. Have we lost Michael? Either way, right? But there's a
Um,
there's. Oh, you back?
yes.
Yeah, you're back. Hey.
I'm back. I'm back now.
Okay, cool. I thought I was gonna have to filibuster there, and you've saved me. Um,
Nope.
but yeah, so like this is weird because I went to see the Ring in the cinema, right? The
Yes.
the edit that is on home video and Prime is a different cut.
Right.
Yes. See the scene where they turn the chair around?
Mm-hmm.
You
You
actually
actually see
see
his
him.
face.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I remember something like that because I have actually seen his face before, but in the version I watched, I've never. You don't see his face.
I mean, to
So
be
I was
fair,
like, oh, that's a bit
I
cheating.
kind of prefer it almost. Like I prefer like seeing the reaction of someone and assuming what their horror is rather than
Oh,
this guy going, "Ugh."
absolutely, yeah. It's like in Beetlejuice, how he shows them his scary face, and we never get to see it, so it just
Yeah.
left to your imagination. It's as scary as you want it to be,
Yeah.
which is all the better.
But I'm trying to think of like other dumb stuff like that in the film because like there is a good few scenes where people just seem to like transport somehow. But maybe we
Yeah,
can just assume that when you get scared by her,
you
like
go to the place that comforts you most,
you kind of go oh no, and then you kind of walk for a wee bit and then just sit down.
and
You're
curl
like,
up in a
yeah,
cupboard,
you're like oh
something
no.
like that.
That'd be
Um,
quite funny. Just in that pose though, you're like
uh, I want to know who allowed the the mountain cabin people to build on top of a well. I want to know who let them who let them do that. Because
maybe
who's like, where can we put this? Not next to the well, on the well.
yes,
That'll do.
it's always good to have a water source directly beneath your log cabin, right?
Yes.
Because there's no such thing as mold, rot, and nothing like
Nope,
that.
nothing like
It's all going to
that.
be fucking great. Just put a stone on it. Done. Job's done.
Yeah.
Like, and also, does anyone know like a stonemason who can cut me an exact sized stone disc to put on top of my well?
Yeah, it was too precise, wasn't it? Did they
Yeah.
look like the exact same well, like they had been like specifically made, like the
I
American remake one had been like made to exact specifications?
I think it's because I'm assuming the first thing they did in the American remake was make the tape, like because you got to get the
Yeah.
tape right. So they probably had to scout for locations and get the thing, and then they'd set up the well and be like, right, okay, yeah, that looks like what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then they were like, Ah, shit, we're gonna, gonna have to like actually go get the prop from that film now, aren't we? Like,
Yep.
make sure it's exactly how we want it to be.
And speaking of the well, that brings me to probably my final nitpick. No, it's not my final nitpick. My second final nitpick
Hmm.
is the bit where, so obviously in the Japanese one, they're like,
Oh,
right, we actually need to find Sadako's corpse. We need to find it so that we can
oh
give it
my.
a proper burial or something. And they actually go into the well.
Hmm.
I'm fine with that. There's a whole,
Yep.
behind the whole thing of give it its proper burial. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? The
Yes.
bit where she gets
The,
pwned by a TV and falls down a well.
see,
A
both
well
both
that's
both well
God.
scenes have fucking awful moments in them, but like, yeah, that one and the American one is a Final Destination like death.
Yeah, like everything sort of like you see all the screws come out and then the floorboard
Nails.
drops, the TV falls and smacks her. And
Yeah.
she falls into this well that's not as wide as she is tall. And when she hits the bottom, she's alive and totally
She belly
fine.
flops perfectly into it.
Ah, that's
Because
it. Yeah.
that's the technique. She didn't like hit her head, didn't hit her legs. She just
Nope.
fucking smacked face first into it and just took the brunt of a
And
12
surface
foot fall.
tension ain't no thing.
Yep. But right, so what I'll give the Japanese one credit for when it gets to the well scene is that guy fucking destroys that house, right? Like I don't,
Yeah.
it's obviously not a set or whatever, but he just gets a crowbar, rips all the
Just
parts out. You can see there's
busts in,
nails
yeah.
in it. Like he just starts tearing this fucking house apart to get to that well.
Yep.
It's really funny, but then that movie decides, it's really good cinema. Watching someone empty a well for 20 minutes.
Yeah. So good. It's
It's
like, right,
literally in real time. Like
this
you're like,
bucket's full. Take that bucket up.
and that's all we needed. Was the idea of that, like, yes, they are draining the well, but it shows you them doing it all fucking night. And they're both angry and annoyed and they just want to go home, but they're gonna die if they don't drain the well. And it's like, oh, time lapse
Disgusting.
people. Like,
Yes. See if
always
they
fade out
just
in a
like,
montage.
yeah, if they just done like, we need to drain the well and just done that shot of the
Mhm.
bucket falling over repeatedly. They're
Yeah.
like, right, cool. Well, we've been emptying that for 2 hours now.
Mhm.
Done.
Because like you can
Um,
tell what at the time has passed because like the sun has gone down. It's now
yeah.
dark. And
Yeah.
that's all we needed. You could have cut out the four parts in between where they like swap
He's
over
just
and everyone
standing
gets
and
angry.
waiting to,
She's
yeah.
she's exhausted from packing chucking
Uh,
buckets around and I'm like, this isn't necessary.
oh, that wasn't necessary.
Which corpse reveal was your favorite?
Um, so the Japanese one unsettled me a lot more because I was expecting something to get me the whole time where she picked it up and there was still the hair on it.
Hmm.
I was expecting her to wipe the hair away and there still be a face underneath or something.
Yeah.
And I was obviously holding my stomach and it was all tight and stuff. And but when it came to the American one, obviously because it grabbed her first and then she went into a flashback and
Mm.
then she
She
looked
she
down at it.
imparted the psychic information because she's the only psychic character in the entire film.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of it dissolved. It um time lapse dissolved in her arms and just
Yeah.
turned back to a skeleton and you're just like, ah.
Because I was kind of annoyed because like the CGI use in that scene is probably the most like blatant use of it in the American one, and
Yeah.
it's just very off-putting because it dates your film at that moment when you're like you're okay, here's the best CGI we've got, make it front and center, show a face dissolving, and you're like just like I would have even accepted like shitty old school where they just like have two scenes and it just fades over the top of each other.
Yeah.
Like because at least then it's like still mystical or weird, but don't show me your bad CGI up close. Like
No.
but the Japanese one does a good job where it's like literally the hair just peels off and it's like just a fucking moldy skeleton underneath and you're like,
Yeah.
"Ah, okay, there's the thing I came to find. Oh Jesus, it's horrible."
Yeah. And I think the Asukawa cradling Sadako and like you felt the desperation like leak out of her and just be like, right, cool, it's okay. I've got you. Like you felt it just felt more like everything's over. It's
Yeah.
done.
And
Um,
but I think, like as I say, I think there was more impact for me from the American one because it's kind of like a pivotal moment where you understand that like Rachel's
The
character is like, oh shit, like this
I
is a
need to be there
child.
for my child. Yeah.
Yeah, like she's like, this is a child that someone just abandoned, and how could they fucking do this? Like she obviously like felt not necessarily love for Samara, but like it was just this idea that she was it's her parental instincts kicking in for
Yeah.
like for the one time in her life for someone else's child, you know?
Yeah.
So it's got that nice kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Even though she's cradling a gooey mess at the
Yep.
bottom
A
of
big old
her.
skeleton.
Yeah,
Skeleton.
skelly
Um,
bones.
the final nitpick I have is with the American one,
Okay.
and it's a bit meh, but it's just so stupid and so fan servicey. And it's when the guy's like holding Rachel, Noah's holding Rachel, and it's like, oh man, she was thrown down the well and she was still alive. How long do you think you could survive down in a well for? And she's like 7 days, and I'm just like,
No,
fuck off.
you have to
See
get the
if
acting right. The acting is important. It's pure. How long do you think you could survive? 7 days.
7 days. See if he had phrased it one bit differently instead
Yeah,
of very good.
yeah.
See if instead of saying how long do you think you could survive as a general term, if he had just said how long do you think she survived like that, totally fine. But how long do you think you could survive? No, because she's been smacked over the head with something and chucked in a fucking well.
Clawed her own fingernails off and probably died of like I don't know poisoning from drinking well water or
Yeah, so it's
something
like
like
if you drink that water, you're gonna vomit, which will
because
dehydrate you more.
I think like maybe the information she thought she had in her head was like how long can you last without water or something. I think that's like 7 days and
No,
but
that's not 7 days. It's like 2 or 3 days max.
is it like 'cause
Yeah.
what's the one that is like 7 days? Is it like without food or something then
Food you
or
can go with 2 weeks. It's 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 minutes,
right.
2 days, 2 weeks.
See, this is what I was trying to figure out if there's maybe like some kind of like tidbit of information she fucked up because like yeah, if it's 2 weeks you can survive without food and she's got
Yeah.
a supply of water, which is generally supposed to be used as drinking water if it's well water, might not be great right now,
Yeah,
right?
but yeah.
But it's still water of some sorts, right? She's getting
Yeah.
hydration. Um, so yeah, she probably could have lasted longer.
But then you've also got hypothermia to take into account.
Uh-huh. Yeah, other points. Like
And
so
the
there's,
fact
there's
that she would need to sleep at some point.
so let's let's get Lassie in, the expert of
About
people
young
getting
people
trapped in a
trapped in a
well.
well.
Yeah, she should know the
Yeah.
exact expiration date of a child in a well.
Yes.
Fuck's sake. Like
Oh,
it was cringy. But maybe
yeah.
if they'd established something earlier on that she was Googling it, like if you're yeah, it says here 7 days.
7 days in a well.
Also, that's another thing is that there's the key phrasing as well. It's the way that she goes like 7 days, just like the phone call says. Like,
Yeah.
why don't they just go about a week?
About a week, yeah.
You know, like it has to be that catchphrase. That's the problem. Yeah.
Or if
But
she'd just done the wide eyes at first, like 7 days, like she had realized herself just there, like,
yeah.
oh my god. Yeah.
But I like so what would you say is your favorite like points from each one? And then we'll talk about like, you know, the worst points maybe.
So my favorite point I would say of the Japanese one was the finale where Sadako came out the TV.
Yeah.
Just because of how unsettling and creepy that was, and how you got to see the whole. Because obviously, if you watch a film and it tells you about a TV or a videotape that will kill someone, you
Yeah.
immediately like it's the same as when you hear oh there's a masked killer. You want to know what's behind the mask. You want to know how the videotape kills the person.
Yeah.
Getting to see that resolution is brilliant.
Yeah.
For the American one, I think it was possibly the fly. See where she pulls the
Oh,
fly through the
like
screen.
yeah. This
That
is
was
not
really good because then it sort of breaks the whole like this videotape isn't just an entity on its own, it's got impacts on the real world and it sort of
yeah.
introduces that there.
And it's like and her interaction with it causes like the immediate like kind of like brain hemorrhage type thing. Like her nose just
Yeah,
starts like pouring out and she's like, oh, well, what the fuck? Like
yeah.
it's you can see that you're fucking with something you shouldn't be fucking with. I think like for me, yeah, the Japanese one is that same scene as yours, where it's just because it's so well done up until the point where we get the pure like moment,
Yeah,
but everything about that's really cool because like
yeah.
that
You
character
like
up until
feel his terror and stuff.
because up until that point that character is usually like hardcore, like he's always be like, oh, I'm too tough, and like he fucking slaps his wife about in one scene because he's such a
Yeah,
pure, I'm the man, I'm so badass, right? And he's that scene where he's like, oh fuck, oh jeez, oh what, it's actually fucking happening, like
this
the
is it.
sheer,
Yeah.
oh no, I don't like it, I don't want this to happen. um that's so cool. But then my favorite scene from the American one is one they came up with by themselves, is the horse scene on the boat.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because like that's just something that's like it's not necessary, but it's just so kind of like visually impactful. Like, you know,
Mm.
she's just like, oh hey, like it's a cute, nice horse, and then it's like obviously like losing its shit because it's coming into contact with the cursed island where she, you know, she hates the horses and wants them all gone, but you don't really kind
Yeah.
of figure out this part, and it's also that scene in itself is quite like just terrifying, like the sheer power of that thing like running around and then like throwing itself to its death. It's just
Yeah.
like quite startling when you see it at first. You're like, what the fuck? Like, why is this
Exactly.
horse yeeting itself to death and smashes itself in the engine and stuff? It's
And
grim.
then it's also got that bit of morbid curiosity of the all the people at the back of the boat
Yeah,
literally waiting to see the horse come out. But obviously that's where the
the
rudders are, so
or blades and
it's
stuff, and
gonna
it's just
fucking die.
yeah. So you just
And
see this kind of
it
red pouring out, but it's so kind of like almost tactfully done. It's not like you
yeah
see like chunks of horse coming with it or something like that. It's just this
yeah.
red spray and kind of coming out from in the water, and people are just like, "Oh no, fuck no!" Like, it's just
And it's like, well, what did you think was gonna happen?
maybe they were just hoping he'd pop up and be like, "Hey, I'm fine." You can throw a life ring to him, like,
No,
but I just think like that kind of added bit of storytelling in the American one really made it
yeah.
for me. Just gave
Well,
us
that's the thing.
something to investigate along with her, you know.
Yeah, and it does, as you so often talk about, it does something different. Like
Mhm.
it makes it its own kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's why I think, in my opinion, this remake works because it kind of feels more like an adaptation than a straight copy.
Mhm.
I mean, it does do the first section as a copy, in my opinion, but like the parts after that, it does its own thing where it like removes a lot of the supernatural elements to kind of streamline the story and make you sympathize more with the characters, I think.
Yeah.
But
I'm I'm sort of on level with both films. I can't really put any kind of one higher than the other. They're both doing different things.
mhm.
But because again, it's because felt a lot of unnecessary hype. Like a lot of people talk about the ring being so scary, and I get obviously like it's
you're
down
you're
to the
you're
investigation and the stuff like
22
that.
years a bit late for the for the hype,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
well, yeah. But I'm just like it's not, and I don't even know what I would probably no. I do know what I'd call the scariest film I've ever seen. That's The Descent. But
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, that makes me feel things, terrible, terrible things. Um, but yeah, it's I don't know. I couldn't rank anyone better than the other.
Yeah, I mean, it earned its place in pop culture, and I don't think it's ever going to
Yeah,
go away. But
no,
as it
sorry.
stands, in my personal opinion, I like the
Yeah,
Ring remake better because of the cinematography, the acting ability, and like the adjustment to plot elements that more coincide with my point of view.
yeah,
Whereas, like, obviously, I understand why like people would like the original and why it's got its place in pop culture. Yeah,
yeah.
I get
That's
it.
fair.
They're both good. But like, I definitely, if I was going to rewatch one, I would probably watch the 2002 remake.
Yeah, you wouldn't just jump straight to the Sadako versus Kayako, the ring slash judge crossover, judge,
The Grudge.
grudge
It's
crossover, the
due
grudge.
on, so that's why you
Ju-
called it due
yeah,
on the Grudge. Yeah, yeah. So that's why you're
yes.
getting. But I kind of want to see that because it looks fucking dumb. Like I've seen some trailers of it, and it's just two long-haired girls beating the shit out of each other and a wee
Yeah,
boy meowing.
which just sounds so stupid.
So that's an always the worst film right there, isn't it?
That's it. So where do we go from here?
uh,
Um,
I think we get Chris to come back in and say the exit line. Are you there, God?
Yeah. Hello. Hello.
do
Hello.
we want to have a think about next week's film, or should we? Well, so I don't know if I'm gonna be here for next week, guys. I have news. I have a
Yes.
potential return to work date of
Oh my
next week.
god.
I know. So I will be going back to work on Thursday next week, but
Hmm.
we don't know what times.
Oh, okay.
So who knows if I'll be here for next Friday? But obviously, I'll keep everyone in the loop.
What we should do
But were
is
we?
we should
Go
review
on.
Michael for next Friday. Like
Yes.
we'll just we'll get all the best clips of
Ah,
Michael,
the
and
film
we'll just be
starring
like,
John Travolta about the Archangel Michael.
yes, I'm up for it.
Yeah.
Um, so if anyone in the chat got any recommendations, because obviously we are currently watching remakes of foreign films. I mean, I would say foreign as in like not English speaking films. It's just what the category is. So if anyone knows of any good, bad, or in between remakes that have like irked you in some sort of way or caused controversy, we would like to hear about them and we'd like to watch them.
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to put out there. It'd be quite cool if you know films that aren't horror.
Yes.
See,
You know,
Ina comes right with the the horror.
But that's a
Yeah,
good
the
one
horror
to go with,
immediately.
though. Let the right one, and that's actually quite interesting.
See, again, like the only ones that come to my mind are horrors because they seem to
Yeah.
get shat on. Like, but
You know, again, Carrie.
yeah,
It's like I'm just gonna
Carrie was a remake.
It was a remake of a
No,
folk.
Carrie has
Oh,
been
there was
remake,
a
but it
remake.
wasn't.
Yes, yeah.
There's been two remakes. There was Carrie 2: The Revenge, and then there was a straight to TV one, and then
Mm.
there was another film one with Chloe Grace Moretz,
But
which is
Interesting.
fucking stupid.
but again, those ones are English to English.
English to English, which
Yeah.
is yeah.
We're looking for ones that like didn't necessarily need to happen, but someone at a studio somewhere said, "Hey, what if we just made this viable for Americans?" Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
So,
the only other kind of one I could think was Suspiria,
Suspiria.
because the original Suspiria was quite a big deal because it's one of the big names in
Mhm.
Giallo. But again, it's another horror film.
Yeah,
So.
I'm trying to think of ones that are not horror films at all. Like, I'm gonna get the Google foo out.
There's a
because-
lot of like old kind of crime film ones. There's a lot of French ones, I think.
Yeah, I
minute.
mean, oh, Vanilla Sky.
yes.
Oh, the girl with the dragon tattoo.
The girl. That's
Girl
a
with the dragon tattoo.
That's a
Because
good
that
one.
was
That's a
Swedish,
good
and then it got remade as English with Daniel Craig.
Because again, that's one where I actually prefer the remake.
I don't think I've seen that. I've seen the original,
I
not
like-
seen the remake.
I like the fact that I did the same reaction as you, Michael, after not seeing any of them. I still went,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
I don't know. Like, I'm kind of excited. Like, if it is, because I actually, yeah, I like that.
I know they're quite tough. I remember watching the original, and it was quite tough watching. Just like
Mhm.
just because of obviously the subject matter and stuff like that. You're just like, oh, this is. I just feel dirty and wrong now.
right, how about this
Yep.
then? We'll do Girl with the Dragon Tattoo next week. So
Okay.
again, I think that's going to be one of the easier ones to find, the two versions kicking about in the streaming services.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And
it will be.
then the week after, we can do Let the Right One In. So we took a break from horror, and we went back to horror.
Okay.
Ending horror. I think everybody wants us to do horror.
Yeah.
Because,
'Cause I've not seen the American version of Let the Right One In.
okay,
Like, have any of you?
Neither, so yeah, we're good with
I've
that.
seen none of them. I don't watch,
Oh, right.
I don't watch
okay.
horror films because I'm a big shy bag.
Little baby man.
You were there when I was watching Hereditary. I had to pause the goddamn film and walk away for a moment.
yeah, yeah.
That was a film.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
so
Chris, you'd love The Descent then. It's great and doesn't make you feel terrible at all.
yeah. I
Wait,
know.
is it? I'm
I've
getting
seen that
confused
and
as
I
to
hate
which
it.
one's which. Is the Descent the one where the archaeologists like?
No, it's just a bunch of cave divers. They're all split. It's
No,
like
but- There's an archaeology dig, and then the cave divers come along because they're told to investigate it, right?
no,
Oh,
that might
I
be
think
this might be the second one, but the Descent is like a group of girls just go cave diving, and then like some of them get stuck, and then there's the mutants underground and stuff.
Right. Yeah. What's the one I'm thinking of? Then it's got something like the Descent. It's like it's still the same idea. They're going down into like underground caverns, and they're like a bunch of cave divers, but they get hired by a dig to go check it out. You know,
I
you
don't know
might
if
you've seen this movie. You know what is it called? No, not As
know
Above,
if
So
it's
Below.
the
It's the other
that's it.
one.
Right.
The one you got like 5 minutes through.
Wow.
But whilst we're waiting for Ina to figure that one out, I just seen an interesting trailer there since I was able to watch trailers while I was kind of being in the
Right.
background today. There is a new Lovecraft HBO TV series being released called Lovecraft Country, and it's the whole thing is based in Jim Crow times.
Oh no.
His executive producer is Jordan Peele.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
surely we should have our own channel for Lovecraft stories called HPO.
Get out.
Oh, no, that was another Jordan Peele.
Yes.
Jordan Peele film.
Yeah, but I watched the trailer for it. I've shared it on our Twitter at Always the Worst
Oh.
Podcast Twitter
Yeah,
thing.
watching our Twitter at Always the Worst Podcast. Check us out. See
Even-
what
Even
daily updates
yeah,
by
of-
Chris.
by me when I watch a trailer. But yeah, it looks really cool. It's basically it's mirroring the kind of horror of the fact that racism is fucking atrocious, and then
Mhm.
it's putting Lovecraft monsters into it as well. So it's just got this brutality during the day and then brutality during the night, so no one's safe.
Sweet.
It looks quite cool. It looks actually pretty good. So check it out. Check out the trailer.
Cool. What was it called again?
Lovecraft Country.
Love. Cool.
I know, very on the nose about what
Oh,
it's going
well,
to be
yeah.
about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Basically, what they've done is because they knew Lovecraft was a massive racist, they've decided to actually
Go
use-
with that.
No, but that's what they've done. They've used that. They're using that part
Yeah.
of it and being like, well, he was a massive racist. Why don't we do it based in these times with horrible racism to show the horror that we actually felt instead of him just saying, I don't like black people, because Lovecraft was a bit of a monster that way.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit
Yeah.
of a
And that's me.
no.
Yeah, he wasn't a good guy.
No. No.
So, yep, next week we
He
will...
wrote some good stories, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, he didn't even write good stories. This is the thing that always annoys me.
good
with-
ideas. Good
that's
ideas.
better. That's what it is. He
Yes.
created an interesting world, and he happened to create a world before anybody else thought of doing that properly, and then wrote
Yeah.
some shite books attached to it. 'Cause I've tried to read a couple of Lovecraft stories. Like I tried to read Call of Cthulhu, and it's the most confusing mess of a book I have ever read.
It's kind of like reading Shakespeare.
Yeah,
Um,
it's because he has this idea of journals. Everything's
Mhm.
always pieces of information from other people because that's how he's trying to create his mystery. But the only
Right.
reason he does that is because he was trying to steal writing techniques from other writers that he was inspired by. So he
Right.
tried to write like writers he liked, but he liked loads of writers, so he mangled all their styles together and made this mangled mess of writing style that makes it really confusing.
But on another note, the movie where the people go into the cave was called The Cave.
Oh,
Of
cool.
course it was.
Good to know.
Oh,
So
it's
yeah,
good.
that's why I got confused because it's a very similar plot, but it's a very
Right.
and also spooky stuff happens when they get down there. But like, yeah, The Cave, The Descent,
Close
not same
enough.
movie, very different quality
Let's
levels,
Start with
but
the same letter.
they're different movies. Yep, totally.
Cool. Right, so
Oh boy.
next week, if you are tuning in, hopefully we'll have Michael with us, and I'll be back properly next week and not be a fucking zombie.
Mm.
Maybe we'll know.
Maybe it's my turn to be a zombie.
Maybe
That's
it's your turn.
Ooh.
Yeah.
yeah,
how
I'm gonna
that
get
goes.
fucking smashed.
On the Thursday night, it's like, yeah,
like,
but I'm not doing
Mark,
this.
Mark's cancelled. Everyone, get him out.
So next week, if you tune in to us talking about dragons and tattoos and maybe knights, that's what happens in this thing, right?
No.
Is,
Close
it,
enough.
is her tattoo like
Yeah.
the Hanzo tattoo from Overwatch? Does it
Yep.
fly off her arms and
It's
magic spiral dragons that you can walk away from? Oh, I'm well looking
There's not
forward
much.
to this.
There's not much you can walk away from in this film.
Oh dear heavens. Well, be looking forward to seeing Depressed Chris next week.
Yeah.
That's what it
Oh,
sounds like I'm going
yes.
to walk into. So,
Yeah.
Oh boy.
okay, guys, it's always a pleasure, and we've been always the worst. Till next time, cheery bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Don't fall in the well.
Good advice for life.